Thank you so much for joining us today for this nonviolent communication workshop. I am Mary Christine Nidzi. I'm the president of Harvard Alumni for Mental Health. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all for today's event with our speaker, Dr. Caifang Zhu, who is also the director of community services at Harvard Alumni for Mental Health. So you may have seen several of his events already. And if you're interested in watching them again, you will find the recording available on our website. Just as a brief introduction to today's event is part of our communication skills series. We live in a divided society, in a divided world where communication between identities, between generations, between political orientations can be particularly challenging. And we thought, what can we do given the impact of these different lines of divide, of fracture in our society? What can we do to help mend and to help the skills for those practices to improve our mental health in everyday interactions around us? So we have this series. It's actually the second event of this series. You can refer back to our website to watch the event by Kurt Schneider, who presented a few weeks ago. And then tonight, we're really going to focus on practical skills that we can all use in our conversations with our loved ones, our colleagues, our neighbors, everybody. We can have a conversation that may become heated or conflictual. What are the good skills that we can use to foster nonviolent communication? And I wanted to orient you to today's program. We're going to have a presentation of core skills and practices for nonviolent communication presented by Dr. Zhu in an instant. After which he and I will engage in a practice. We're going to demonstrate a little bit of a conversation that could become heated in an everyday context. And after that, you will actually have a moment to practice. And I will give you the heads up so that you can message in the chat or message me privately if you wish to indicate if you would be willing to come forward as a volunteer. We will need 2 volunteers on camera to come practice after Caifang and I demonstrate this technique. We'll give you a little scenario and ask if you are willing to try it out. The alternative option, if we're feeling a little bit camera shy today, is to do it in breakout rooms. So please let me know and let us know in the chat what your preference is. If we have 2 volunteers, we will practice on camera. The cat can be a volunteer, but we're gonna need the human to talk, Marcia. I see your kitty is joining us.
He says hello.
He says hello, hi kitty. So that's and then after the practice, we'll have some time for question and answers, and Dr. Zhu will be the one answering your question on how to apply those skills and those practices. So once again, welcome. We're so glad to see you. And I'm going to turn it over to Caifang Zhu, our Director of Community Services. Caifang, the mic is yours.
Hello, thank you, Marie Christine, Dr. Nidzi. Well, it's a great to meet you guys. So I think I'm going to show the slides right away. Hopefully, I can present this nonviolent communication in 10-15 minutes. Then we have as Marie Christine has said, she and I will have a show, have a demonstration, a real one. Okay, and then after that, you guys will practice. Now, let me give you the screen. I have some slides, brief slides. All right. A little background. Marshall Rosenberg is the founder of Nonviolent Communication. He died in 2015, the year I wanted to learn nonviolent communication and become a certified practitioner. Then I realized he was gone, unfortunately. So I had to learn from his students, certified students, trainers. Or I also learned through his online courses, very systematic and very thorough nonviolent communication online. So I studied with him through video and I studied with these students, certified students. So Dr. Rosenberg was a student of Carl Rogers at the University of Wisconsin in late 1950s and early 1960s, when Carl Rogers was teaching and practicing at the University of Wisconsin after he left the University of Chicago. So naturally, after he graduated with his PhD in clinical psychology, Dr. Rosenberg became a humanistic psychotherapist. As you all know, especially if you are in the field of a clinical psychology or counseling psychology, Rogers was a pioneer and also one of the greatest humanistic psychotherapists. So Rosenberg modeled on his teacher and became a humanistic psychotherapist. And shortly after that, he actually developed a new model called nonviolent communication with clear structures. As you know, if you are familiar with Rogers is very well known and very humanistic, advocating positive regard, unconditional positive regard with the clients, and congruence, as well as empathic listening, empathy. Other than these three principles, Rogers didn't have any structures in his psychotherapy. He just went with the flow with the patient, with the client, and tune in to the patient as well as to himself. But as we will show a little bit more, Rosenberg, he invented a four-step procedure to do his nonviolent communication. And he finally was recognized worldwide and received the Bridge of Peace Nonviolent Award in 2006. And UNESCO promoted his NVC throughout the world. Just one quote, okay? There is a Center for Nonviolent Communication. You can just key in the words and Center for Nonviolent Communication. It says nonviolent communication training evolved from Dr. Rosenberg's quest to find a way of rapidly disseminating much needed peacemaking skills. And the Center for Nonviolent Communication emerged out of the work he was doing with civil rights activists in the early 1960s. During this period, he also mediated between rioting students and college administrators and worked to peacefully desegregate public schools in long segregated regions. So as you can see, he evolved from a psychotherapist to a peacemaker, working not only with clients individually, in a family, in school, but also worldwide to try to help to resolve conflicts, international conflicts, or conflicts between religions, between tribal disputes. Two principles in nonviolent communication. This is my summary, actually. Okay, I summarized nonviolent communication into two principles. One is empathic listening, and what does it mean by empathic listening? You have to have eye contact, frequent, but not staring at the other, but natural, very thoughtful and comfortable eye contacts. Emotional resonance. Okay, when the other person that you're listening to is very sad, you're supposed to be like that. You're gonna resonate or mirror his emotion or her emotion. Of course, you need to feel it in your body, in your mind and body first before you mirror or before you resonate. And bracketing your thoughts and values completely. This is very demanding, okay? When by empathic listening, you are going to give up completely your stereotypical thoughts, your opinions, and try to put yourself in the shoes of the speaker. not only, you know, intellectually, but also emotionally, more important emotionally. But how can we develop this? And for how can we develop the ability to be empathic listening? This I find that Rosenberg has not mentioned in his book. Did I give you the book? No, this book, okay, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. And there is another book to go with this. That book is on practice. This book is more on theory, but there is also a lot of practices. Unfortunately, I have not found how this ability can be found, can be developed. Rosenberg did not mention it, nor did his teacher, Carl Rogers, tell us or train us how to be able to listen empathically. Now, I think today we are more equipped with the practice of mindfulness. Most likely, people can have a sense of how to develop this, you know, by being mindfully tuning into yourself, tuning in to your emotions, your thoughts, and your, you know, whatever bodily sensations right now, right here. And then you can anchor yourself. And then, of course, you can imagine, or you can empathize with the speaker, or something might be happening within that person, emotionally, physically, and, you know, intellectually. So anyway, that's what I would say. Training. When I was giving courses or training workshops, I usually ask people to have moments of a mindfulness practice to anchor or to ground himself, to be able to empathize with himself or herself before he empathized with the other. Okay, honest expression, just expressing all affects, thoughts, and feelings honestly as you feel. Okay, and be congruent. You don't say what you don't feel. You don't say what you agree with. You don't say what you feel unless you really feel it. And Eugene Taylor has the word felt sense. Unless you have the felt sense, you don't say it. You don't accept it. You don't own it. Okay. So that means you have to be congruent. You have to be very aware of what is going on. In one word, the nonviolent communication advocates the model of giraffe. And the other side, the other way is called the model or the pattern of jackal. Okay. 长颈鹿和柴狗. And giraffe means the giraffe model means or the giraffe pattern means a natural pattern of speaking and listening from the heart. From the heart. It doesn't say from the mind, folks. Using the word from heart. So in nonviolent communication, more emphasis is given to the heart, to the feel, to the feeling, over against to the mind, to the reason, to the logic. And jackal means jackal favors the habitual pattern of attacking, defending, or running away. Okay, and that's the difference. That's a major difference. So when we say nonviolent communication, we are modeling the giraffe's pattern. Giraffe is believed to have the biggest heart, physical heart, of all the animals in the world. So that's why he is represented. He is used as a representation. Now let's do the 4 steps. That's the meat of the matter. I have to watch my time. I've never done 15 minutes presentation. All right. Now, this is the meat of the matter. Rosenberg developed facts, feelings, needs, and requests. He says if we follow these 4 steps, we can, you know, have an interesting conversation with the client. when I'm listening to the, if I want to be in the role of the listener, of the empathic listener, I would try to be very careful and to listen for the facts. Okay. Later on, in a little while, Marine Christine is going to tell me his story. When I'm listening, I will just the first step, I will pay attention to the facts to see what is what are the facts she is mentioning in her story. Okay, and by facts, facts are facts. They are different from opinions. Okay, different from comments. Okay. So I would say when I hear her tell her story, then after a while I will give the feedback. I will say, or in the middle, I will say, I hear you say that you got up at 7 a.m. this morning, and then you had a little headache, blah blah blah. Okay, I hear you say, or I see you have I see you put your hand on your ear when you're speaking. Okay, I saw you, or I see you put your hand on your ear, or I see you touch your nose when you're speaking. So basically, when I'm reflecting the facts that I hear or I saw, I use these two patterns. I hear you say, I see you do this. Okay. So we're going to distinguish facts from comments. This is because if I confuse the facts with comments, the listener might not agree with me. She or he will say, no, I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. Okay. So in order to be able to go ahead and to allow the speaker to move on to share more, I need to give a little summary and feedback. And in this feedback, I need to give her the facts. And then she will say, if the speaker says, yes, this is exactly, you're right, this is exactly what I said, what I meant, then we can move on. Then the listener or the therapist can go ahead to discuss or to reflect the feelings that the speaker has expressed. Feelings. Distinguish, again, we need to distinguish feelings with thoughts from thoughts. Many people don't know what is the difference. When we say, how do you feel? She or he might say, oh, I felt it's interesting. That's fine, it's interesting. Or I felt I need to have a cup of tea. So that's actually an idea. I felt like I need to have a cup of tea. I felt like I need to have a break. That's a thought. That's not a feeling. So we are looking for the feelings rather than the thoughts in this step. There are many feelings, but basically there are two feelings. The feeling of our needs being met, like delighted, warm, grateful, and the feeling of our needs unmet, fearful, anxious, desperate, frustrated, lonely. Okay, and the list can go on and on. And now this sentence in green is, to me, is very, very important. Why do we have so many negative emotions? Why this guy keeps complaining, keeps angry, keeps frustrated? Now Rosenberg pointed out our negative emotions are tragic expressions of our unmet needs. Once again, negative emotions, according to NVC, are tragic expressions of our unmet needs. In other words, if our needs are not met, then we become emotionally negative. Now you may say, what kind of needs? Okay, and then how do we know what kind of needs is unmet or are unmet in this client? Rosenberg listed 7 kinds of needs, different from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, pretty different, but there are some overlaps. So Rosenberg says, okay, there's a free choice. This is the first kind of needs, okay? Free choice, celebration, your need to celebrate your birthday, your need to celebrate a party, to throw a party, and nourishing the body, eating something delicious, okay? Or taking the bath, playing fun. Integrity, spiritual communion, interdependence, okay? Interdependence has the longest list of needs in his category. Interdependence means anything, any quality, any psycho-spiritual quality that promotes trust, understanding between one person and the other. So like love, understanding, empathy, these are called interdependence. So here the unique vocabulary, but I'm not able to go into details. So basically, we are gonna, when I find out that the speaker is being angry, and then I need, as a listener, as an NVC listener, I need to guess what kind of need is not met, what kind of need that is not met, that is triggering this speaker's emotion. I need to find out through discussing, through empathic guessing, to find out what is his need that is not met. Until I find this, I will keep discussing, exploring with him or her. And when that need is found, okay, the need that is not met, is found, then the last step is I, as a listener, will do the request step. Now, specific needs are likely to be met, but abstract or general requests are less likely to be met. And also, I forgot to put it down. Also, I forgot to mention, it's a request, not a demand. Very important, okay? So when we find out the need that is not met in the client, we are going to make a request, not a demand. By a demand, we say, hey, come and do this. Come and give me a cup of tea. Hey, go and open the window. Hey, come and join us. These are supposed to be, these are regarded as commands, not requests. A request is always in the question form, as a consultation, as a invitation, and the client has the room, has the freedom to decline or accept. So it would be like, what would you like me to do with your situation, with your blah blah blah? Okay. Or in my case, when I was counseling a guy, he happened to be a Christian as well. And one time, he said he wanted to pray to God. What can he do to make himself out of the deadlock of social isolation? He has shut himself in his room for 3 months in a row. He could have stepped out his room very easily, but he was not able to do that. He was consulting with me, and then he said he wanted to pray. And I said, well, that's a good idea. Why don't you try this? What would God say to you? What would God say to you? You pray to God what he would say to you about taking the baby step to alleviate your social isolation. Okay, so this is my request. He has a need to to be free, to have social contact, but he's not able to do that. So I said I asked him to make a request of God. And I request him to do that. Maybe I can say what's okay. One thing, maybe okay. You probably has heard some cries in my room. My baby, my son is crying. My son is only 2 years old. In the first 6 months, I had a quarrel. I had a fight with my wife because actually it's not a fight between her and me. It's more it's a crisis more from the the presence of my mother-in-law who was taking care of my son. Well, my wife and I went to work during daytime, so my mother-in-law was taking care of my son. At a certain point, my mother-in-law and I had an issue because of the widely different educational background and upbringing differences. Anyway, so my wife was emotional, very emotional, and she cried. And I knew this was a crisis. So I allowed her. I just listened to her complaining and wailing, but I didn't say anything. Until after maybe an hour or so, she quieted down. It was already far into the night. And then when I lay down as well in the bed, I said, I heard all what you said, blah, 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 this and that. I could feel, of course, you were very, very sad, very, very angry with me because I didn't follow your advice to say excuse me to your mom. You wanted me to apologize to your mom for my behavior, for the conflict. Is that right? She said, yes. I said, oh, okay, I heard you all. I could feel your emotion, but I was not able to engage in conversation with you at that time. But now I feel I'm ready. Would you like to now engage a conversation in a more calm way, in a more calm way and more rational way? And she said, yes. Okay. So I think so we had a conversation, and in the conversation, she actually wanted to broaden the dispute. I mean, she wanted to mention the issues in the past, similar issues. Okay, similar the pattern. We have different pattern of a thinking and behaving. So I said, well, are you sure you wanted to broaden the topic, broaden the discussion, or do you want to just focus on this issue that we had right now? She decided to focus on this. So I brought it back and I pointed out, the needs, her needs. And finally I said, now is it okay? I apologize to your mom tomorrow morning instead of tonight. It's too late. Yeah. She said, that's fine. Well, you can just do it tomorrow morning. Early on, she wanted me to do it right away, but I felt very reluctant. I felt I was wronged. I felt it was not my fault in the first place, but I decided to, listen to her and to have a very honest but very difficult conversation. And when we agreed on the resolution, so the crisis was over. All right, so I think I'm going to stop here. I have many examples. I used my own personal example to give you a little sense. It's interesting to use this in couple therapy, estranged couples, but we are going to stop here. I think we are going to have a practice with a Marie Christine. Is that okay? It's already 8:30 here in China. Should be 8:30 p.m.
Thank you so much, Saifang, for showing those slides and making some of these steps more concrete. But now we have them concrete in a conceptual slide. Now we're going to have concrete in an applied meaning.
Yes.
So how would you like to just get started, and we're going to demonstrate on an everyday situation, and then we're going to ask our audience if 2 volunteers are willing to try on another everyday situation. Is that how we proceed?
Yes, that's the plan. That's the plan. We'll just demonstrate. It's a live demonstration, folks. We didn't prepare. We didn't rehearse.
So I'm not going to make it easy for Saifang, but I'm going to assume that we are in a relationship, that we are living in the same space, and I'm not going to tell him what it's about. But he's coming back from work, and I'm just going to be a little grumpy. I'm a little angry, a little irritated.
Wait a second, Mary Christine. I can pretend to be your husband, or I can just be a listener. Which one would you like me to do?
I think perhaps we have some therapists in the room, but we have people from the community, perhaps modeling what it would be like in everyday situations. So if we were husband and wife, as opposed to a client to therapist. What do you think?
Okay, let me try. Okay, I can certainly try to pretend to be your husband.
We're trying, folks.
just
All
like
right, let's try that, and then you can tell the audience how you would do it differently if you were in the role of the therapist.
Yeah. Now, just 1 second. In humanistic psychotherapy, it's interesting. Rogers tries to narrow down the differences of practicing at home between couples and practicing in the counseling room as a therapist and client. This is one of the major features of humanistic psychotherapy. In other schools, other approaches like a psychoanalytic psychotherapy or CBT, they say, no, you can't practice with your wife. You can't practice at home. It's going to be what is called double relationship. The double relationship is going to suck. But Rogers says not exactly. So we can just see how it goes, okay, with this in mind.
All right, let's try it. We want this workshop to be applicable to all of us in different circumstances. Okay, so Saifang is coming home, and I'm telling him, I don't want to talk tonight. I don't want to talk. I'm irritated.
You're irritated. Tell me why.
It's always the same thing. Always the same thing. I'm irritated.
Give me some more things. I forgot what you mentioned earlier. Tell me something more.
Look, again, you just came home. The entryway is a mess.
The entryway is like that. What is that?
All of the shoes. You come home and you leave shoes in the middle of the way, and then I trip over them.
Wow. So I hear you say, every time you go home, you see the hallway, you see the doorway is blocked with the shoes and the socks.
Every day I have to clean them. Every day I put your shoes away and your socks in the basket. Why don't you put them in the basket?
All right. So you're saying you saw the shoes and the socks on the floor, and you want me to put them in the basket. Is that right?
Yes, we have had this discussion many times. Why are the shoes still in the middle?
Why are the shoes still in the middle? Seems like